Hey, this is Pastor John Churchill. I'm bringing you this week's word, and that word is notice. That's one thing about Jesus. He noticed all the people who came to him. There were some people that came for themselves, some came for others, but he noticed them. You remember the story when Jesus was in a house that was just full of people who came to hear him? They just wanted to hear him teach. And some of them were there to learn how to grow closer to God. Some were there out of curiosity because they'd heard about this guy who does incredible miracles. And some of them were out of suspicion because they thought maybe he might be a false prophet. And I think some might have been there just for a chance to stir things up. So Jesus is preaching to the standing room only crowd. There's no chance for anyone else to get in. And here was this man, this paralyzed man in need of ministry. And no one in the house was aware of him. Everyone had their own reasons for being there, and they didn't notice this man in the back of the crowd laying on a mat, desperately needing Jesus' healing touch. Man, I've been there before, how this guy might have felt. Once my wife and I and our 3 kids went to visit a church, and not one person spoke with us. No one noticed us. It was like we were invisible. They were busy talking to each other, to their friends, I'm sure their small group, and enjoying the fellowship that they had with each other, but they couldn't even say hello. We felt like that guy probably felt just invisible. Nobody noticed us. See, he wanted to see Jesus, but he couldn't get there because people were so focused on their own needs. And too many times we are focused on us and ours when we need to be aware of and focused on what we can do for others. We need to notice those who might be feeling overlooked and left out. That's what 4 men did. They could have been like everybody else in the rest of the crowd, but they weren't. They could have said, well, let's go hear this great new teacher. Let's see what he has to say. They could have squeezed into the room and moved up forward just a little bit so they could get to a place right where they could see and hear all that was going on. And I'm sure that they would have been blessed by what Jesus had to say. But these 4 men didn't do that because they weren't like the rest of the crowd. They weren't willing to let their friend be overlooked. They noticed him and brought him to Jesus in an unconventional way. They tore a hole in the roof and let him down. And Jesus and everyone else noticed him for sure. And Jesus forgave his sins and healed him. This week, let's work. Let's work that in the midst of the craziness of life to notice people who might be overlooked by others. You know, like when we're in an elevator, instead of looking down at your phone, take time to look around and see the people that are in there. Take time to look around and see people that are in need. Make a difference in the lives of others by noticing them. Say hello. And let's make that a goal for this week. Let's just say hello to somebody that we don't know. Blessings. Bye-bye.